In this video, I'm going to turn your boring cosplay photos into something epic, whether it's movie characters, anime cosplay, or creepy villains. Nothing is impossible. Today I'm going to be editing your cosplay photos and we have two. So let's start with the first one. This one was done by the beautiful Jihara Jade. Did I pronounce that well? She does a bunch of cosplay characters and I chose this because it fits her so well. First, I used the pen tool to isolate the image from the background. Since this is a close-up shot, I needed to extend the image a bit more. And on doing that, there's still a couple of pieces that I needed to add. I used these trousers to add legs to her. I took a piece of the gauntlet from the left arm and warped it into the right arm. After blending in after blending in the legs and the gauntlet, she was ready. The idea is to place her in a sandstorm with smoke and dust as she poses for battle. So I used a bunch of solid colors and mist brushes with smoke brushes, move them around to create the effect I was trying to make. After making the background so dusty and smoky, I needed to add a couple of things because it seemed empty. So I added weed, not actual weed, I mean like weed plants, and blend it into the edit. After spending so much time trying to figure out the placement for the smoke, I needed to blend her into the background. So I added shadows and highlights that reflect from the background color onto her skin and whatever you call that is on her head. Oh god. I added highlights to everywhere I thought that would be illuminated.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
After finishing up, I still felt like something was missing, so I spent a bit more time on it. And after adding the camera raw filter, here's the final result. I enjoyed making this one. I wanted her to be the entire focus, not the background. So on to the next one. Next was done by Rila Cosplay as Azula. I already have an idea of what to do with this one, so let's hop into Photoshop. First, I removed the background as always. So since it's Azula, Azula is actually crazy.
What? Which one of you just said that?
So I needed to make something gentle. The Fine Asian architectural designs kind of looks like the Japanese temples. So I downloaded a bunch of temple pictures and used the pen tool to isolate them from the background. I placed them into the actual edit and I realized that I did not know exactly what I want to do. But an idea came to mind. So I added a cape to her clothing to make it flow around the entire edit to give it this dreamy, freakish look. I duplicated the same image to complete the other part of the cape. The entire edit started looking a little bit nice, so I added a cloudy sky to the image to see how it would look. Next, I added the appropriate shadows and highlights that will work really well with the direction of the light. After adding the final highlights to the buildings, it still seemed a little bit off, but I know what was missing. Fog. So I used my fog and mist brushes to add depth to the background. The cape looked like it's floating and that's not what we need. So I used a couple of coins and put on the shoulders, duplicated the clothes, warped it around to give it a feel like it's attached to her armor. I added shadows and highlights to the cape to make it look more realistic. We need to change the color of the cape to red since red is Fire Nation's color. So I used hue and saturation to change the color. So I added shadows to the cape and the character itself. After doing all that, the head is still seemed a little bit more empty. So I added a couple of things. I added mountain in the distance. I had a couple of flying leaves. Color graded it to look a little bit more warm than cold. And added the lens flare. It still feels a little bit off, so I added radial blur and maxed out the places that I wanted it to be influenced and took it all into camera raw. Here I adjusted a couple of settings and here's the final result. I didn't really pull off what I had in mind, but it's cool.